Good morning to you all. My name is John Dolan, Captain John Dolan, and I work as Deputy Director of the Loss Prevention Department in the Standard P&I Club. Thank you. And a little about myself. My background is I'm a career mariner, ship manager. I joined the club 5 years ago, but after that, or prior to that, I was a deck officer. I went into ship management and did the usual marine manager, fleet manager, general manager. The last 10 years before I joined the club was as a director and general manager. So my background is coming from the operational side, technical side, rather than pure insurance. You can read this. This becomes an exercise in speed reading. You can read it there. I did a bit of due diligence as well, and financial side. But my last and most proud moment here is that for 6 years I was a board member of the International Chamber of Shipping. So in that forum, I can tell you something about that discussion that takes place there. I was at the board meeting last week, and all of the stuff that you're talking about here this morning is very live, very current, very topical. It is hot subjects. So I would like to talk to you about Misdeclared cargo. I'm Irish, I'm speaking very quickly here, but I'm looking very consciously at the clock in front of me. There's a lot to go through, but I'm going to concentrate on 4 principal subjects here. One is how we got here. What is the issue around the backdrop of misdeclared cargoes and the issues arising from it? I will talk just generally about the collaboration within the container shipping industry, very high level stuff. My background is on the ship management side and light touch on the insurance side. So the container industry itself is highly complex, but I'll make a few words a little bit about that as we get into it. The initiatives that are going on in the industry right now to try and counteract misdeclared cargo, what can be done, what more should be done, and what definitely must be done in the future. So that's the context of where I'm coming from. And this is the reason why. Now, that's a 20-foot container coming down from about 200 meters. We call that in the P&I Club, that's my day job. We get to call that casualty porn. We see this all day, every day. This is the kind of casualty stuff that the underwriters come over to me and say in the morning, John, what happened here? Well, in this instance, take a wild guess. That's the KMTC Hong Kong in Lem Chabang last May, and that's fundamental to the example of what I'm going to talk about here. But a bit of context first. The chart in front of you there shows the evolution of the container shipping industry and how the ships have grown so rapidly in the last 10, 20 years. From relatively modest vessels in the 50s right through, but the real acceleration has been in the last 15, 20 years. We now have the very large container vessel where everybody knows we have 20,000 TEU vessels out now with designs for 25,000, 23,000 on the water right now. Just to put a bit of context in it, 20,000 TEU, 20,000 containers. Each container, a 20-foot unit, is 6.1 meters long. 20,000 is 120 kilometers. If you put in front of a container a rig about 3 meters long, that adds another 60 kilometers to it. So we have one of those vessels, the mega jobs, carrying 160 kilometers of containers. I Googled this last night. A bit more perspective, that stretches from outside the front door here in Hellenic Centre right to the centre of Bath. So one of those vessels has a massive carrying capacity. From an insurer's perspective, a massive aggregate of risk. So we are taking a very keen interest in what's actually happening with these vessels right now and the misdeclaration. That's just to put context on it. So, a little bit more information. We understand that about 200 million containers are carried every year. very, very quickly going through it. We understand that about 10% of those 200 million is dangerous cargo. And more finger in the air estimate here, we understand about, of that 20 million, that 10%, about 3% is misdeclared. So bottom line, right now, a daily basis, approximately 18,000 plus or minus what, we don't know. We don't know the spread of the figure, but a huge number of dangerous goods misdeclared is in the transportation system now, could well be on the high seas right now. If you take that math and you apply it to a 20,000 TEU vessel, 10%, 2,000 is DG on board, 3%, then that's down to 600. You could have 600 containers on board the vessel, any one vessel on the high seas right now, if the mathematics are consistent. One third, sorry, 33%, sorry, my mistake, 1/3 of the 10%, correct, which is 3% of the overall number. So you start at 20,000, 3% is 600. 600 potentially on board a vessel right now on the high seas, it could be. But what we don't know, nobody knows, is how many, is it 600 plus or minus? Could be significantly more, could be significantly less. But what we do know is one container. Sorry? No, I'm saying 10% is.
No, you said out of 20,000 per ship.
Yeah.
3% times 20,000 is 60, not 600.
Really?
600 is a good number.
We'll do the maths after, Apostles. I think 20,000, 3% is 600? Okay. Okay, we'll talk that offline. But the figures are huge. What I'm saying is, guys, one container can set off a catastrophe. That's the message here. So whether we're talking 60, 600, the numbers are practically irrelevant. The fact is, there is a lurking on board every container now, a dangerous cargo that is misdeclared. That's a problem. These are examples of them where it started here on the Fortune, CMA Jakarta. Those are the vessels that we could see right now starting it off. We could go on, we can talk very, very clearly. If you're watching the press yesterday, the reports on the Yantian Express, also dangerous cargo, misdeclared. The Germans were saying that it was declared as, on board as coconut pellets. In fact, what they were saying was coconut charcoal, a self-combustion dangerous cargo, which was not declared. And it's not just on board the ships, it could be on land as well. That's a picture taken of Tianjin. I have to say, when I gave this presentation a couple of months ago, I was trumped. There was somebody else in the audience who did even more dramatic picture, because to the left-hand side, where you can see a crater there, the crater, he had a view taken from the top looking down, and it was almost as if a very, very substantial bomb had gone off. So it is dramatic. Tianjin, can you imagine if that was Rotterdam, Antwerp, Hamburg in Europe, US, California? That's what we're talking about. Why does it happen? Misdeclared cargoes, well, people put on board stuff, calcium hypochlorite, everybody knows about that one, but it's often declared as whitening powder, cleaning powder, swimming pool clearing agent. Picking out another one, lithium-ion batteries, they're put aboard as declared on the bill of lading as mobile accessories, mobile phone accessories. Reasons to misdeclare: economics, fraud. The surcharge for taking a dangerous good on board a vessel can be $1,000. If it's going to be from China to Europe, if you're going to be in a reefer container, it'll be $2,000. So there's an economic incentive. Synonyms we talked about. How does it happen? Last-minute bookings, the use of multiple freight forwarders, fraudulent customs declaration. You can read these guys. So what do? Do we inspect every container? Unlikely, not practical. So it's mentioned here very briefly, SIN's operation. This is one industry initiative. The major carriers have got together. They formed this group called the SIN's Cargo Incident Notification System. The basis of it is the database that these guys are nurturing in order to share information, to alert each other that there are people out there who are trying to ship cargoes. It's not commercial. So there's no sharing of freight information or cost information. Antitrust and anti-competitive forces will make sure of that. What can they do? Well, we're as insurers, because we're on the hook for this, we're advising owners, operators, strive to know your customer better, find out who the shippers are, who the manufacturers are there people coming out there who have known track records or not, should you deal with them? This is a very, very obvious protection for the ship owner and the carrier. Tighten the booking process. This is very self-evident, guys. We're asking for greater training, greater concentration of resources amongst the carriers to screen out and vet. Use software. There's lots of information available now. But ultimately, the people who are taking the booking must know what a DG is. They must know where it's going to be. They must know when to refer it if they're unsure. The economies of scales. I just mentioned this because slot charter is part of the business. If my vessel isn't filled, I will go to my competitors often, and through slot charters, I will fill the capacity to carry their cargo. I may be conscientious in my vetting. My slot charter may not be quite so diligent. He doesn't tell me, so the cargo gets on board my vessel and must not necessarily stowed in the correct position. I won't dwell on that. So in summary, large number of containers out there which have been transferred around the world. We'll do the mathematics afterwards. Okay. The container industry needs to work together for sure. Collaboration, we've heard about that in other contexts. That's very, very important. Lots of training on the staff. Knowing your customer is key. And this I'll share with you is this. This is the Maersk, Honam, not Misdeclared cargo, I will not say that, but that's what we're looking at. And more importantly, it's this. That's a picture taken, that was released by Maersk a couple of months ago. On the left-hand side is the hole left by the burning out of the cargo in the forward part of the vessel. A blown-up version of that is there. I mean, this is a container up there. That's what you're looking at here. So these are the guys working away on the steps over here in the forward part of the hold. Take a good look, ladies and gentlemen, because 5 people died in that accident. That fire, they were found on the bridge wing looking down. So they were looking at that fire when they died. That's why we cannot allow, must not allow this picture to define the shipping industry, the area of container shipping that we're involved in. Thank you.